Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I will be filming what I read this month in May. I increased the amount of books I read this month, not by much because I feel like I was reading longer books, but still we do have a sizable amount of books to get through. It is technically still May as I am filming this, however I am going to be travelling, so I won't have any of the books that I read with me, so I thought it's better to just get it done now because June's only like 2 days away. So yeah. Okay, so the first book that I read in May was The Final Gambit, which is the third book in the Inheritance Game series. I read this book very quickly. I loved it. It rounded up the series very well, I think. I think I might have given this 5 stars. A lot of people seem to prefer the first and second book, but I honestly think I really liked this one just because I felt like everything was coming together really well and we kind of got closure on who Avery was going to be with, which I will not mention because no spoilers. But overall it was really good. The series itself was a 5-star series for me. It was the first full series that I completed since starting my reading journey, so I absolutely loved it. Okay, the next book that I read this month was And Then There Were None. This was the first book that I read that was kind of not from this century, I guess. It was not as far to say it was a classic, but it was more classical. It was a thriller murder mystery about 10 people who go to stay on an island. They are invited and one by one they start dying by mysterious means, and they are trying to figure out who amongst them is the killer. And it was very gripping. I remember when I was reading it, it took me a little bit to get into the kind of writing style because it wasn't as modern, obviously, because it was written in the 30s, I think. That could be wrong. But after like 2 chapters I got into it and I literally read it in about a day. It was very good, and I didn't see the kind of plot twist coming. I didn't guess the ending at all. I was nowhere near close to guessing the ending, but that didn't make me enjoy it any less. I absolutely loved it. It had me questioning everything up until the very end, so very good. Overall, I rated this 4 stars and I very much enjoyed it. Okay, so the next book that I read this month was the one, the only, A Court of Thorns and Roses. The start of my obsession with this series because I am absolutely in love with ACOTAR and Sarah J Maas. I love it. I haven't finished the series yet. I have a little bit left of A Court of Frost and Starlight, and then obviously Court of Silver Fury. Is that what it's called? I'm not sure, but I love this series so far. It is just everything that I could ever want it to be. When I was reading this book, it was the first fantasy that I had read, and I don't know what I was expecting it to be like, but I think I was expecting it to be a lot more like daunting and hard to read, but honestly everything about this was so perfect. The world was easy to get into, the characters were all really likeable, the romance was perfect, just what I wanted when I was reading this, and I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think this book, it was just the perfect kind of starting point for the rest of the series, and yeah, I loved it. Okay, so next this month I read The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. It's basically a slow burn, fake dating kind of romance. He is a professor at the college they go to. She's a student, but she's not his student, so it's not illegal and weird. It's very cute actually, and they basically fake date. She was trying to set her friend up, so she wanted her friend to think that she was in a relationship so her friend wouldn't feel bad about it, and he had his own reasons for fake dating her. But yeah, it was very good. It was a very cute romance. It was a little bit cringy, but sometimes that's part of the fun of reading a romance. It's just got to have a little bit of cringiness to it, but that made it, to me, my final rating was a 4.5 because I did really enjoy it, but there were some bits that I was just like, ooh, and it was a little bit predictable. Like I kind of knew how everything was gonna play out and what was gonna happen, but that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I did enjoy it. So yeah, 4.5. Okay, next this month I read A Court of Mist and Fury. I actually have a reading vlog on this if you want to go check it out. It does have spoilers, just a warning. But this is the second book in the ACOTAR series. I loved this book. It kind of changed the tone from the first book and brought in a lot of new characters. It had a great adventure. It kind of set up for the rest of the series, because although ACOTAR originally kind of set up, this kind of took the series in a different direction than what you kind of felt it was going to. But it was, again, the same kind of like vibes of fantasy, romance, etc. It started off really well. In the middle, I felt it got a bit slow, and then the end picked back up again. So for that reason, I gave it 4.5 stars. It would have been a 5-star read for me if it wasn't for the little bit in the middle that kind of dragged on. But apart from that, it was perfect. I was really intimidated by the length of this book when I picked it up, but I didn't feel when I was reading it that it was too much for me. So I don't know what that says about the book, but it was very good. Okay, so the next book I read this month was Beach Read by Emily Henry. This was the first Emily Henry book I've read. Actually, I've only read one as of right now, but I've bought others. It is very, very hyped up on BookTube, I would say. I don't know so much about BookTok, I haven't necessarily seen it there, but I'm sure it's the same. I feel like a lot of people have been rereading this recently. Well, a lot of the booktubers that I follow have been anyway. So I decided this would be a good time for me to read it for the first time. It's essentially a romance about two authors who are kind of in a writing slump, and they make a bet to switch genres and write a book each, and whoever can get published first wins. It's kind of a summer romance. Over the summer and this period where they have the bet going, they fall in love. They were also college rivals, so that also plays into the kind of dynamics they have. But overall, I very much enjoyed it. I gave this book 5 stars actually. I feel like I never give romance books 5 stars. It's kind of a rare thing for me to do, but this one was a 5-star. There was nothing I would change about it. I enjoyed it from start to finish, and I read it in like 2 days. It was just perfect, and it was just starting to get kind of into that summery weather when I started reading it, so it just like matched the vibes perfectly. I loved it. I have 0 complaints. The next book I read was this absolute mammoth of a book, A Court of Wings and Ruin. This is the 3rd book in the ACOTAR series. It is giant. It's like almost 700 pages or something like that. It was essentially, I don't know if it was originally meant to be written as a trilogy or something, but I feel like it wrapped a lot of things up, even though it's not the end of the series. But in this, there was the war with Highburn, which not necessarily a spoiler, and I can't say too much about it without giving spoilers away, which I'm not going to do. But it was a very, very good book. I absolutely loved it. I enjoyed it from start to end. Like, unlike A Court of Mist and Fury, which I felt dragged a bit in the middle, I could not put this one down. I felt it was just so fast paced and it was really gripping, and I was like hooked from the moment I started reading it. I just could not put it down. I gave it 5 stars, which is a bit of an unpopular opinion because I feel like most people say A Court of Mist and Fury is their favourite and that this one kind of drags on, but I feel like I had the opposite experience, so that might just be me. A lot of people might disagree with that opinion, but yeah. The last book that I read this month, although I'm technically not finished it, as you can see, I'm about over halfway through, but I will be finished it by the end of May, so I'm going to include it, is A Court of Frost and Starlight. This is a novella in the ACOTAR series, and it is essentially kind of like a Christmas special to the whole series. They're celebrating winter solstice, and it's not got too much of a plot. It's just kind of the aftermath of this book and kind of where everyone's at. I think it's just kind of setting up for what the next book's going to be. Nothing's really happening. It's just kind of showing them all happy and relaxed for once, which I have to say I'm enjoying because I feel like they're always going through something in the big books, so this is quite refreshing. But I can very much appreciate this for what it is, which is basically a Christmas special of ACOTAR. So I will give it 3.5 stars so far from where I'm at. I'm sure that reading, actually I don't think it will change. I think that's what I'll end up giving it anyway. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about it. There's not a lot going on. It's just a short little novella. Okay, so thank you so much for watching my May reading wrap up. Hopefully you enjoyed. Please feel free to leave any of your own opinions on any of these books if you have also read them yourself. I feel like this was quite a good reading month for me. 8 books. I think it was 8 books I read anyway. If it's not, that doesn't really matter. But it's still quite a lot of books for me considering I'm very new to reading. But yeah, maybe that number will increase next month and maybe it'll go down. I don't really know, to be honest. I'm still finding my level on the whole reading thing. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed and I will see you next time. Bye!